Greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Dean Tenney, aka Series 7 Guru, and Brian Lee, managing member of Test Geek Exam Prep LLC, otherwise known as the Test Geek. Welcome to our weekly community Q&A live stream. We will start with that little housekeeping before we get into any questions you may have. So feel free to tell us what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from in the chat. You can chat amongst yourself. We sometimes have victorious test takers who come join us. If you do have a question for Brian or myself, please put a what exam you're taking followed by a capital Q. It makes it easier for me to pick it out of the chat. If I miss you, it's not intentional. Just put it back in the chat. Every once in a while, when I'm time stamping the replay, I see that I've missed somebody. So it's not intentional, I assure you. So feel free to pop that back into the chat if for some reason I pass you by. The biggest debrief, we like to start with debriefs. And the biggest debrief is, woohoo, June 12th. The 65 is going down from 72 to 70%. Brian and I finished a episode that we just published on the 65 and those changes. And you can find that either on my YouTube channel in the podcast section or on Spotify. It's easy to pick out. Thumbnail says changes effective June 12th. We had such positive feedback on that I also just made a little 12-minute version on the 66 as well. So you can find those podcasts are available and streaming on both the YouTube channel and Spotify. This Thursday, I'm doing a basic options class, or excuse me, it's not basic. It's well, kind of basic. Stock plus option contracts. It's $35. If you'd like to register that, it comes with free office hours. The free office hours for this week are booked. The office hours are only for people who have paid for tutoring or classes, and that's capped at 5. The class itself is capped at 10, and I think there's still a couple spots there. So you can find that at deantenneytutoring.setmauer.com/classes. And also there's a free live stream following this at 6:15. We take a 15-minute break, and then we have a whiteboard, and we do some Zoom questions. That is free for anybody who would like to participate, and I think there's still a couple spots available for that as well. All right, if you are looking for a free supplement, the best free supplement is my YouTube channel, but the best paid supplement is Kaplan Q Bank and the Teachable course offered by our friend Brian. Brian is kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount code for all his products and services. So all in, videos, PDF, a great practice test. It's about $100, I think, with the discount. And Kaplan Q Bank is about $60. Guru 10 is the discount code at checkout for Kaplan. Guru 20 for Brian. I do teach Kaplan open enrollment classes. Kaplan does contract with Guru Exam Prep LLC to conduct classes for them. And sometimes they call and say, are you available? And if I am, I agree to do it. So you can find me on the Kaplan schedule teaching a 66 and a series 9 and 10 in the Q2, and in Q3, I'll be teaching a 24, an SIE, and a series 7. So you can find that. We end all of our calls, all of our weekly community live streams with a 30-minute coaching call. So when we do that drawing, if you come up and you win, you claim that within 1 hour at deantheseries7guru@gmail.com, and I send you the Zoom invite. That call is recorded, and then it's shared after the fact. I always love when somebody picks a great topic, like we had a coaching call that somebody wanted to talk about customer accounts, very testable. Love that. If it's a good topic, I might run over 30 minutes so we can finish it. You can share that with other test takers. You can assign it to some other test taker if you have passed your exam, whatever floats your boat, so to speak. All right, so let's get into the chat and let's see what we got, Brian. Oscar, I missed my marks at 66, second attempt. I have another attempt a month. Ugh, that's tough. You know, I just finished tutoring somebody 2 hours today on the 66, and for some people it's not a challenge, but other people it certainly is. So I don't know what your score was, Oscar. Chat, guard your privacy, but if you want to tell us your score, you know, sometimes it's even more exasperating if it was close, but you still missed it. So there you go. So Teresa, you just gotta, you know, I would give yourself, I have a podcast episode. I'll link it here at 4:50. Let me link that. I have a podcast episode on the 5 steps to take after you fail. And so I'll link that at 4:50 in the replay. You guys might want to check that out. It has some good constructive advice for you in terms of how to respond to that. Please, I was just telling Brian before he started, don't blame somebody else if you miss the mark. This guy really missed the mark, and that's even more of a sign it's on him than it's on somebody else. And so I kind of lost it. It wasn't, you didn't use my channel or anything. I just said, listen, let's just be clear. This isn't on anybody else but you. So, by the way, your sponsoring firm doesn't want to hear that either. They don't want to have excuses. They want you to come back with steps you're going to take to pass the next time.
A plan.
There you go. Thanks, Zelda. Zelda is a victorious test taker. So Zelda's biggest fan is in the house. So if you want to talk to a victorious test taker, there he or she, I'm not sure biggest fan is a he, fan of Zelda or Zelda, but in the house. Bay Area, love it, Daniel. I spent a lot of my career in the Bay Area, so I miss the Bay Area every now and again. Those memories come up, and I go, oh man, I got to get back there someday soon. It's been too long for me in terms of how long it's been since I've been in the Bay Area. So I got to get back there, back to where I once was. Indiana, Teresa, SIE Thursday. I love it. We got a lot of testing victories on the SIE. So make sure you check out my SIE in 60 minutes. And I'll link that here for you. And lots of positive feedback. Check out the video descriptions too and comments. There's a lot of people who, put debrief there. And so I'll link that for you. I might also suggest watching my 33 test questions on the SIE video. It's got, I think it's probably almost the most popular video. We're going to be there soon. I'll put that there for you. Happy Tuesday. I think, Trina, you passed, right? I believe she's a victorious test taker. So I believe so, Trina. I think I got the message from you. Been a busy couple of days. So if I am behind on emails and stuff, know that I do pay attention. I just haven't had a chance to return everybody's. SIE Friday. 70 on past perfect's excellent. So that's weird, Jasmine. It's usually the opposite. I haven't heard of anybody who scores higher on past perfect than they do achievable. So that's crazy. You are a statistical anomaly. I'm very hopeful. To me, the past perfect scores. So again, I'm not throwing rocks. I told you I got into it with somebody today. I have zero issue with achievable as a paid primary study source for SIE. Zero. I have zero issue with achievable as a paid supplement to the Series 7. Do I think there's better paid supplements? I do. One of them is right there on the screen. Test Geek, a Kaplan Q Bank, but hey, to each their own. I do have a problem when people are using achievable as their paid primary study thing, because what has happened more than once, if I've had people who order the achievable as a paid supplement, and they love the narrative theme, and Brandon, nothing but love, does a great job on the prose, and it's so much easier to read, and they usually find the questions easier, that they abandon sometimes their primary study material. And when they abandon the primary study material, I think I do think some test takers could be at risk. So I don't think you're at risk with a 70 on past perfect. And that 60 is kind of my biggest issue. There seems to be a lack of correlation between achievable scores and then what people actually get on the test. You're the first one I've seen that's the other direction, but for what it's worth, that's my issue with them. It's the only issue. David Hamner in the house. Oh man, you're still a handsome devil, my friend. He's got a quick question. Okay, you can ask later. I doubt David is actually taking a serious exam. He might. He's an entrepreneur and has a lot of expertise in a lot of areas. So, David, I'm more than happy to answer any question you might have. You can answer public or private or my email. I don't know, David, you still have my email, but it's deantenney@gmail.com. All right. I've had so many blasts from the past today, Brian. I had another guy. I started out decades ago in the securities industry, and I thought, is that really that guy? And sure enough, he goes, hey, it's blast from the past. I'm like, I don't know, David, if you're finding me on the YouTube or what's going on, but I'm getting a lot of blasts from the past. Whoop, what happened to that? Good luck, everyone. There we go. 7 and 63 test with Kaplan, leveraging Kaplan and training consultants for the 24 general securities principles. We've had some good passing over there. We have a Reddit, Brian. I don't know if you're already a member of our community. We have sister communities for the channel on Reddit. We have R Series 7, which is a community for the SIE and Series 7 test takers. We have R Series 66, which is a Reddit community for people taking 63, 65, 66. And then we have R Series 24 for people taking Series 9, 10, and 24. I, Brian, like the Reddit. I'm not a big Facebook fan, and people say they love the people who like Facebook. Moderators there say, well, it's not anonymous, and therefore, people are friendly, or you know who they are. I think the opposite. I like that Reddit is anonymous. I'm certainly not anonymous there. Everybody knows who I am because, I'm there answering questions and stuff. But I do like if you don't pass or you're studying, I think sometimes that being anonymous is helpful, that you can be a little more forthcoming with what your scores are. Like we had a guy who said he got a 56. I'm not so sure if I had a Facebook profile and it was me, that I'd be comfortable sharing that I got a 56 on the actual exam. Particularly true, Brian, too, in our 24 community. I'm so proud of that community. We have a lot of people helping each other, and it's just really, it runs almost by itself. I mean, every once in a while somebody has a question for me. In fact, I just realized I got an open question I'm supposed to answer. But anyways, I hope if you're not a participant in that you'll consider joining that. I usually at the end of each of the live streams put a link and a pinned comment how to find those Reddit communities. Oh, by the way, we have one for Series 6 now too, R Series 66, or R6, excuse me. Series 6s don't get enough love. So, hopefully that'll build up. That's building. So I'm happy that way. Yeah, Brian.
Dean, one comment on Brian's comment there about the 24. I often recommend, if cost is not a problem, a couple of different publishers, combining Kaplan with STC or TC. I like that strategy. It gives you more diversity.
I'm so with you, Brian. Can you believe this?
Especially on the 24. Yep.
Especially on the 24. I had somebody on my on the channel day. She passed, but she told me they're using training consultants. Now, listen, I think this is somebody with a conflict of interest, but a past perfect training consultants. They have vendors, clients who they specifically tell their test takers not to use any other source.
Wow.
And I just think that's ridiculous. I mean, I know, Brian, I never think that test takers are monogamous. I think test takers are going to want to use whatever arrow they can put in their quiver to make their mark. And so I'm a big believer in using supplements, either free or paid, whatever you need. I mean, sometimes don't get too many voices in your head, but sometimes somebody will say something that really just kind of clicks for you that didn't click with that other person. So I'm totally with Brian on that. I know Brian and I don't think of ourselves as working with people who are going to be monogamous with us. But I just think it's fascinating that it seems like some of these test prep vendors and companies have that attitude that you're going to be monogamous. Now, I'm not saying don't do what your corporate trainer wants you to do. So I'm not saying, if they have a locked learning thing where you're supposed to unit 1 and move on to unit 2, you need to do that. But it's nobody's business. I think if you want to, after hours, participate in other sources. I know part of that could be, Brian, I think this is hilarious. I title my vendor lectures, your vendor lecture is not working for you. And I'm purposely telling you, well, here's somebody else, me, it's a buffet, take what you like, leave what you don't. But anyways, they were telling me, Brian, their class, the guy was so bad, they were passing around the link to my YouTube channel.
Wow.
So I could see where he would be upset. But, I would say level up,
Exactly.
would be the solution. Yeah, Teresa, the laundry list of regulations and laws. There are things that are just lists, but I think you can learn some of them in the context. I was talking yesterday. Most of the acts have some story behind them. And if you kind of get the context of that, why that act is what it is, like 33 is the Prospectus Act. 34, you can get some questions right by just covering the screen. Are they asking me about paper prospectuses? 33. Are they asking about people and places? 34. So that might be helpful to kind of link that up. You have any thoughts on that, Brian?
Dead fish on ice at beer parties without sex.
Dead fish on what? Dead fish?
Dead fish on ice at beer parties without sex.
And what is that? Is that a
It's
memory?
It's the 33 Act, and the dead fish That's
Put that on your whiteboard. Would you put the just the acronym?
Dead fish on ice at beer party. That's a pretty long acronym.
Yeah.
Beer parties without sex. It's the registration process for securities under the 33 Act.
So D is due diligence?
Preliminary prospectuses.
Okay.
The due diligence is the beer party.
Okay.
And everyone's there except the SEC.
Well, I'll ask Brian Teresa to send me an email with that, and I'll put it in the video description. Okay. I'll ask Brian to send that.
Dead fish on ice at beer parties without sex. Yeah. It used to go over well in class.
Well, sometimes, sometimes you never know. I had a guy who had when the ship docks order pina coladas, and it was to know the order of who gets paid in bankruptcy. So,
See, that's what it's all about. It's those mnemonics that help you learn those laws and regs.
Past the 7. All right, Trish. All right. That's what it's all about, man. People helping people. So you're not alone. That's one of the things I've tried to make a community available. There's a lot of ways to access the community. We have our sister Reddit communities. We have our weekly live stream. We have a live stream overtime session tonight. We don't do that every Tuesday. We won't be doing it the next couple Tuesdays, but we do it tonight. That's free for anybody who wants to participate. We have office hours for people who participate in our evening classes. So make sure you get plugged in. My heart is always hurt when the first time we hear from anybody is that they've been lurking and they missed their mark. And I'm like, well, gee, if you would have been active in the community, we might have been able to, intervene a little quicker and help you out. So. Well, tomorrow, Daniel, can you do a quick overview on rules and regs that are most testable? Daniel, you should not be tonight doing anything but getting a good night's rest. The answer is no. We are not going to do a quick overview regarding rules and regulations that are most testable because that would not take up the whole live stream, perhaps. And you should be getting some rest. The big ones are 33, 34, the Insider Trading Act of 88. I'd say this, Daniel, if you miss your mark tomorrow, it's not going to be regs. Right. It's going to be function 3, which is investment vehicles, options, mutual funds, and muni bonds. So if that's a big deal for you, you can reread that chapter, for example. But I'm suspicious, or I would think it's a warning that you should not be doing things the night before. I will link at 1732. It won't do any good for our friend Daniel, but I have a podcast episode on the day before your exam and what you should be doing. And one of the big things is getting a good night's rest. What do you think, Brian? Do you want to give him an overview? Or you
laws and regs on the Series 7?
Yeah.
Investment vehicles, my friend.
There you go.
Options, munis, bonds, suitability.
Your time is better spent elsewhere. By the way, I don't think you should be doing that, Daniel. So my advice is to get off the live stream. If you're on the East Coast, what is it, 8 o'clock? And, do whatever you do to relax. Like I like to have a nice scotch, cigar, perhaps, to kind of get in my game face. Some people like to have a nice dinner, whatever your thing is, you should be more.
I'm a witness to his scotch. Yeah. Top notch, let me tell you.
Brian and I went out. I drained a bottle like a fool, and he's trying to make me feel better by saying, well, Dean, it wasn't full when we got there. And, I helped you on a cup. Like, oh, thanks. You're such a good friend. I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, I know. Me neither.
66, almost a victory lap after feeling both. They felt amazing to smash it in one go. It's so, listen, let's be clear. Passing your exams the first time is always the best way to do it, right? So I like it. I like that. So congratulations. Kudos. By the way, if you're taking the SIE, I'm so happy that on our channel now, we have as many people who are using the channel as a free supplement for their SIE. And I have 2 SIE playlists. I have vendors lectures there. And I also have a lot of practice tests, Brian's included. And, the effort you make on your SIE really pays dividends as you move through. So, I always joke the journey of 3-0 begins with 1-0. And there is no sunken intellectual cost. By the way, that's true if you're going 660, 365. That SIE, you don't want to barely pass your SIE. You want to overlearn it. You want to overlearn that SIE to lay that groundwork and foundation and the good study habits and execution of your study plan for your next one and your next one. So Zelda's biggest fan, you might have just become a better test taker and executing a study plan this third time out. That could really be. The other thing I recommend, and I had somebody the other day, once you're in the registration mode, keep going if you can. So she said to me, her firm had offered her the opportunity to take a 24 or a 19. I can't remember which one it was. And she was going to take a break of 6 months and then come back. I go, no. Run the table. If you're already in this mode, it's out there in front of you, go grab it, because, a lot of people struggle on 9, 10, and 24 people that, it's been decades since they had a 7. So there you go. I like it. The Test Geek 66 practice final. Brian, I can't tell you how many times, I don't know if it was you today, but somebody sends me an email. I told Brian, I'm only going to interact a couple times on Brian's content before I tell you, just call Brian, because he's more than happy. But he has a question. I think it's your 66 where everybody misses it, and they swear that it's D and not A. And I say, I think it's a good practice question, because RTFQ, read the full question.
Yeah.
And read the answer set. And what they always do, Brian, is they answer profit or loss for the question, when the question was simply, what is somebody going to receive?
That's right.
On the index option. Remember, what Brian on that question is getting at is that index options settle in cash. And I have to say, he didn't ask you what the profit or loss was. He asked you, what would somebody receive?
I did that in class, I bet you, for 15 years, and everybody in class would get it wrong the first time they take it.
Yeah. So testing Friday. Love it. Love it. If you get good scores and you're feeling ready, you're kind of want to try and reverse engineer your execution of your study plan from your test date. I had somebody this week, and they're ready, but they're not testing for like 2 or 3 weeks. And it's kind of hard to keep that momentum. And I was recommending you might want to consider going early and testing. So,
yeah.
Good evening, gents. Yes, go Heat. Oh my goodness, boy, the Celtics. What's up with that? XJ, I think he may lose his job, the coach there. I mean, you can't get rid of Jaylen Brown and Tatum, but I'm an NBA fan, XJ. Boy, the Heat, that culture, and Jimmy Buckets, and my goodness, they're on fire. And then last night with LeBron, 38 years old, he did everything he possibly could do, and still didn't get it done. But Jokic, I just love the Joker too. So he's such a classy guy. I mean, just class all around. So I'd be nice. Nuggets and Heats looks like what it's going to be. Oh, so I'm a man, and I'm currently playing. Oh, The Legend of Zelda. There we go. Right now, while you're watching. Okay, there we go. That just shows you how old Dean is. I don't even know what The Legend of Zelda is. Is it like Night? What's that one that everybody, Fortnite or? Thanks for joining us from LinkedIn, Will. We broadcast to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, obviously, and Twitter. So thanks for joining us. Good luck. Bon chance. We're sending you good test vibes. You've got this. So, all right. Hi, Cynthia. I think, Cynthia, you're joining us for the live stream tonight, I think. The overtime session. I saw you're joining us for Thursday. Remind me, Cynthia, you don't, I think you might have paid again. You don't need to. You get free repeats. So I think I owe you $70 because I think you bought the first 2 versions of that last quarter. So if so, we'll talk tonight or tomorrow. And if so, send me Venmo or PayPal, and I'll send you back your $70. One of the things you get when you buy a class from me, the Thursday night class was stock with option contract, and Cynthia has participated already. You get free repeats when that class shows back up on the schedule. I'm not committed to a regular schedule, but when it shows up, you get free repeats. Sure. You want to do that on your whiteboard, Brian?
Any chance to write on
I
the whiteboard?
love putting Brian to work. He likes his whiteboard. That's the problem when you show off a whiteboard board like that, then you got to be ready to use it.
Now, one thing that people have to be careful with in the textbook practice questions, sometimes they'll say 2-for-1 split. Sometimes they'll say a 100% stock dividend. And I've always told people that stock splits are nothing more than very large stock dividends.
Yeah.
The most important thing to know is that the number of shares always increases, right? And the price of the stock always decreases.
I can't tell you, Brian, how many times. Sometimes that's the only answer that
I was just going to say, that's all you really need to do. At the SIE especially, you really don't even need to do any calculation.
Yeah.
Okay? Because again, I know how, people start chewing their nails when they have to do math. But, if you want to go into the $5,000 and you get 2 times the shares, what's 200 into 5,000? That's 25. So you got 200 shares at 25.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the quick math. But again, like Dean and I both said, typically all you have to know is the number of shares go up and the price of the stock.
And then just remember to be the opposite for a reverse. So reverse,
that's right.
number of shares go down, the price goes up. But in terms of the math, if if you're going to do the math, you just get your calculator. Whoop. Oh, there we go. And you could just take 2, divide by 1, and then times it by the shares, and that would give you the 200 shares.
Right. Yeah.
And then remember, the total cost base, original cost basis is still the same. So
5,000.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So you didn't tell us whether you're taking the SIE, but that's more going to show up on the SIE than it does on the other exams because, they've already tormented you on that. So I wouldn't think that would be a big issue on your 7. Convertibles, you're definitely going to have to calculate parity, Audra. So parity means equal, and you can't be fumbling around with parity calculations. And so, in a convertible, I'm either going to ask you parity of the stock. I'm going to ask you parity of the bond. I'm going to link 2553, Audra, to a video I have on convertibles. And you definitely need to be able to do that. PE ratio, you need to be able to worry about. I wouldn't worry about EPS. Brian's showing you here a convertible. So let's let Brian.
I was going to ask you if you didn't mind if I took 20 seconds.
No, take. No, it's parity. So listen, very rarely, Audra, do I say this. You need to be able to do this as a matter of routine. You can't be fumbling around. And it hurts my heart when people are fumbling around with math we told them they had to be prepared to do. Now, I know not everybody uses my channel or uses Brian's videos, but it hurts my heart too when we do cover this and somebody doesn't. Like somebody on Reddit, you can put in the search bar, super voting shares. And they had a whole thread where everybody's going back and forth on super voting. And some guy put a link from I feel like, you could have just put that in the Reddit and it would have come up 15 times. We've told people about super voting shares on the Series 7. So, oh well. And then muni bonds at a premium. That's there. So anyways, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
I think the easiest way to do convertibles, I've taught it this way for 20 years.
Yeah.
Because when I read the textbooks and they started giving me 3 different formulas, which I can remember because I'm good at math, but I just found a far easier way to do it. Because the bonds are quoted as a percentage of par, you can easily see the percentage change in the price, and you just apply that same percentage to the conversion price of the stock, and that's the parity.
Wow.
You don't have to go into conversion ratios and multiply it, but it just take the percentage change.
Well, Audra, the video I'm going to link is a lot longer than that. So, and then PE ratio, you definitely got to be able to do PE, price divided by earnings. I would tell you almost the entire test is division, Audra. So if you can't decide what to do, divide. And if you can't decide what to divide, take the first number divided by the second number. That's 90% of the math. I would be doing you a favor if I masked every key on your calculator except the divide key. There's exceptions to that, but that's the vast majority. Series 24, Brian, in the house. Can you give a high-level peek into the cadence of execution for securities, i.e. introducing firm, execution, clearing, and settlement? Well, I think the introducing firm doesn't have, Brian, a way to clear a trade. So to clear a trade, we need to have 4 departments at a brokerage firm order flow. So to clear a trade, we need an order department. The order department transmits the order to the appropriate market center for execution. We need a purchase and sales department. They generate confirmations, they match trades. We need a margin department who determines whether monies or securities are due. And then we need a cashiering department. So that's how we clear a trade. I would know that in chronological order, and a good mnemonic for that: order department, P&S department, margin department, cashiering department is order peanuts, Mr. Carter. Order peanuts, Mr. Carter, or other people's monies count. Yeah. Now, Brian, if we're a broker dealer that doesn't have a clearing firm, we can introduce our customers to our clearing firm. And we call that an introducing broker dealer or fully disclosed. It says, Gamma Global Investments is introduced to National Financial, or Gamma Global Investments is introduced to Pershing. And the customer sees that. I used to tell customers, I can't steal what I don't touch. I don't have your monies and securities. They're at the clearing firm. They're at the clearing firm. And that would be, who's got that. Some firms are self-clearing. That means, for example, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Charles Schwab. Those aren't introducing firms. They're clearing firms. They have an order department. They have a P&S department. They have a margin department. They have a cashiering department. Settlement, remember, is when ownership changes hands, and regulatory settlement between broker dealers is T+2 for corporates and munis, T+1 for governments and options. We don't tell customers this, Brian, because we don't want to use our money to settle their trade, but customers get 2 additional days. I highly recommend, and I will link to it at 3018. What is that video you have, Brian, on the 24 for fails and buy-ins and stuff? What's that? You
buy-ins and sellouts. Yeah, buy-ins and sellouts, series 24.
Okay, I'm gonna link to that. And I got to tell you, Brian, on 24, I'm not making this up. I have had many 24s who watch Brian's little video on this thing, and I feel it's like a religious experience to them. They're like, oh, so I will link to that. I think that's about the best I've seen of somebody going over that. I was tutoring a guy on 24 the other day, Brian, and I was tempted to bring up your video and say, you don't need to pay me. Just watch Brian's video.
Just watch the video. Dean, Brian's question here in itself tells me he's got a pretty good high level understanding.
Yeah.
If he's talking introducing broker dealers, executions, clearings, and settlements, he's got the flow.
There you go. There you go. And then remember, Brian, I would just add to that. I've had a lot less people in 24 telling me they're getting in the weeds on fiscal responsibility and net capital. Because the net capital is different depending on what type of broker dealer you are.
Yeah.
So I would have a general understanding that the lowest level of net capital for a general securities broker dealer would be the introducing broker dealer. And then there's 2 versions of that introducing broker dealer. There's one where I say, Brian, don't send me any monies or securities. Send them directly to National Financial or Pershing. And there's another version where I say, I will accept those for prompt forwarding to the clearing firm. And then I would have a general understanding if I'm accepting the customer funds and securities, I'm going to have a higher net capital standard. Only other thing, kind of a low probability question, but also the types of business we can conduct is based on our net capital. What I mean by that is a introducing broker dealer that does accept customer funds and securities for prompt forwarding with that higher net capital number can be a selling group member in a firm commitment underwriting. They can't do firm commitments, but they can participate as a selling group member. Yeah, but I'm with Brian. I think it's part of this vocabulary, right? So you're talking like a player. You're talking like a general securities principal.
Yep.
And all these exams, it's like learning a foreign language. They say when you dream the foreign language, that's when you know it. So I guess when you have your first, dream of your exam, that you're on the right track. All right, Gina, I was thinking you'd test it. I don't know why I was thinking that. Yeah, Alexis, I can't tell you.
Boy,
confidence is so key. Your flash response is your best response.
That's worth $1 million.
That's for 10
right
points.
there.
That's right. What if they meant? They don't. You can't get wobbly.
Yeah.
So, I have some things I say all the time, and I try and mix it up, but sometimes I'm in a rut. But one of the things I always say is be confident in yourself, be confident in the execution of your study plan, and most importantly, be confident in your answers. So I can't tell you now, there's exceptions. What I mean by that is if you know you got it wrong and you know what the right answer will change, but very rarely will you meet both parameters. To change an answer, you got to know you got it wrong. You still don't change it. And you know what the right answer is, then you change it. But other than that, you leave it alone.
Dean, that's why we're so simpatico, man. It's so interesting because these are the same things that, we both tell people for years.
Yeah. Why don't people listen to us?
I don't know.
We've only helped thousands and thousands of test takers.
We've turned gray talking to these people. Please stay with your first choice.
And listen, I've embraced it. I probably had haters before I got on social media. I just didn't know it. So I guess ignorance is bliss. But I think they meant it as a dig, Brian. I've embraced it. Oh, he's that old dude. I go,
That's
yeah,
right.
I am that old dude. I think you want an old dude. You don't want hey, I'm the new guy. So,
on our podcast, what did I call us yesterday on our podcast?
Old war horses.
Old war horses. Yeah, that's right.
We're like LeBron. For the first half, we can put up some points.
That's right. Triple.
All right. My firm provided me past perfect, so it's 90% achievable 10. I do like Jasmine having the achievable or another page supplement. Here's why, particularly in past perfect. When you have more than one source, we talked about the advantages of having more than one source. The other thing that's good about that is confirmation. So if you are trying to decide whether past perfect is putting in the weeds, which they do, and you have another Q bank, whether it's Achievable or Kaplan, or you have Teachables, Brian's Teachable videos, then you can use confirmation. Geez, Brian talks about it. Past Perfect talks about it. Achievable talks about it. Dean talks about it. It's on the test. If it's Past Perfect one time asking you to calculate like yield to maturity, and nobody else asks you to do that. In fact, we specifically tell you you're not going to have to do it. Then you can let it go. So that's the other reason to have a diversified sources, because you can use those. Again, don't get too many different voices. We can use it to confirm confirmation or non-confirmation, right? You can always ask. There you go. Brian's got on his whiteboard. Let me give him some space. I apologize, Brian. I haven't begun your entire whiteboard when you are doing your thing.
That's okay.
So there we go. So I call that an intermediary, or I think Brian calls it a bridge.
A bridge. Yeah. I call it turning mashed potatoes into premium vodka.
Right. So I would consider that supplement would be where you would put, my YouTube channel and Brian's
That's right.
Paid supplement, right, to help you get through that. And again, I have no issue with Achievable as a supplement. I think Kaplan and Brian are better, but whatever.
We all have our preferences, don't we?
That's right. That's right. Brandon makes great videos, Teresa. He knows his stuff. He's a former Fidelity trainer. I have no issues whatsoever with Brandon. Brandon's the guy responsible for content. I told you my issue is correlation. There we go. Rachel, man, she's keeping the economy and the test prep economy going, buying everything. So she's got Kaplan, she's got STC, she's got Achievable. Kaplan, Rachel, the Kaplan QBank is the best. I used to not say that, but I do now because it's just true. You have a performance tracker. It's easier to identify. There's more questions. You can manipulate the QBank. So I do believe the Kaplan QBank is the best. I've been trying to get Brian to do a QBank, and he keeps saying, why would I do it when Kaplan's got one already? So I get it. There's a lot of truth to that. And so, Kaplan QBank is definitely the best. If you don't have a Kaplan QBank, I think it is something to consider as I think a reasonable investment. For Series 7, with my Guru 10 discount code, it's like $60. Oh, if you're 70, Alex, 75 or 80 on Past Perfect, I think you're great. You should be good. So I'd be awful surprised. So just so you know, my standard, I'll let Brian think what his standard is. My standard is I want you 70 plus. 70 plus, I think you're not at risk, and I think you're going to pass. 60 to 70, I think you're at risk. It's not where you want to be. It's more than likely you'll still pass, but it's not where you want to be. I had somebody today I was tutoring. I said, we got to get you in the 70. We need a margin of safety.
That's right.
The margin of safety comes from having a higher score. Below 60, that means you have a knowledge deficit problem. And that just means you shouldn't be testing. I mean, I've had people get below 60 and still pass, but it's unlikely. So, Alex, you should feel really good with where you're at. And remember, you're not taking practice tests to stacking them up to learn by missing questions. Is to get a mark. And I had a guy today, and I giving him a little bit of a hard time. I said, listen, you don't need to do practice tests. You need to lay more base. If you're getting below 60, that means you don't know the information. And that means you need to work on that before you start taking practice tests. So, and I can't tell you, Brian, how many times I get people, do I need to read the book? The answer is yes. You need to read the book. You need to read it cover to cover. So this guy said, well, I didn't read the book. I just did the questions. I go, well, then that's why you missed the mark. I mean, I don't know why you would repeat a process that didn't work. So
on the other side of that, Dean, I had a conversation today with a gal. Her boss told her that you shouldn't take the test unless you get high 80s to 90.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous. Yeah, listen.
You're just going to be forced to memorize the publisher's.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Brian. And I feel very proud of the fact that a lot of training departments do refer people to my YouTube channel, because they know that, for the most part, like Brian, we are simpatico. I do think, though, that they require too much of a margin of safety, and it's a waste of time, because the other thing that drives me nuts about that, Brian, sometimes they want them to get 80 or 90 in every subject before they're allowed to take a practice test. And, in margin, that's ridiculous, because there's 3 or 4 questions, and it could take you 20 hours to be able to get a 90 on Past Perfect's margin questions. So, yeah, I understand there's lots of even test prep vendors who say they want you in the 80s. I'm 70 plus. Are you 70 plus, Brian? What do you think?
I like 75 as my comfort level.
There you go.
70 is better, is good. 75 is better.
The higher, the better, for sure. Let's just be clear. There's nothing wrong with getting an 85. So,
no.
Ben, the 80 is wonderful, and the 80 is better than 75, but they're both great scores. They're both great scores. Philly, city of brotherly love. Oh, poor Philly. I felt, I don't know if Doc is going to be around. We were talking about our NBA playoffs.
Nah, he's already gotten fired.
Oh, he did. Oh man, there you go. They out of sight, out of mind. Like I say, you can't fire Joel Embiid, right?
Yeah.
Past perfect is harder, Alex. So I think somebody was telling us they're using past perfect. Here's Alex again, right? So those scores are going to be fine because you're going to pick up some points from past perfect, Alex, to the actual exam. The unfortunate part is we only know a correlation now on people who fail because we don't get passing scores. But when we did get passing scores, we could, and we still believe that correlation still holds true. But you should feel really good. So if you're doing past perfect and you're getting those kind of scores, Alex, you should feel real good. They're tougher. I would just say past perfect is not my, if you came to me and say, Dean, what test, I'm just starting out, what vendor should I buy? I would not recommend past perfect because of that. They have too much stuff and they go too much in the weeds. So, but too much is better than not enough. So, Exam FX, I think is a little too thin. Past perfect's a little too fat. Somewhere in there is the right weight.
Exactly.
Ben has scored 49 of 65 on the practice exam, and the last two simulated exams, an 85 and 91, using Kaplan. I think you're in good shape. The exception, I would say, Ben, to not doing practice questions to learn is the 63. I think the key to the 63 is to read the book and do a zillion practice questions. So I like those scores. I think you're in good shape. There is a couple 63 practice exams on my channel. I don't know when you're testing, but if you have time, we have a Test Geek 63 practice test. There's a Kaplan 63 practice test, and that's what you should be doing, is doing just practice tests. But I don't think you're at risk.
Yeah, looks good.
Joseph in the house. I love it. I think that's a Windsor knot. I don't know how many gentlemen still know how to tie a tie properly. That looks like a proper tie knot. Used to drive me nuts when my brokers wouldn't. I don't think anybody wears. Do we have to wear ties anymore? I don't know. I probably shouldn't be making fun, Joseph. If I went to my closet right now and put on a tie, I don't even know if I could remember how to tie the thing. I think it's like riding a bike. Northwest Indiana, first time taking the 66 on the 31st after passing the 7 on third attempt. Well, kudos on resiliency, man. I can't tell Joseph how well you're going to do in our business when you can suffer that misfortune and still get it done. Your firm knows they got a winner. One of my best brokers used to go out and tell people, if anybody knows this stuff, it's me, because I had to take the test 5 times. People invest with you because they like you and they trust you, not because you can pass tests. So I got to give you a kudos on that third attempt, man. That's awesome. Firm uses STC. STC is a fine test prep vendor. I love Kaplan, but if it wasn't Kaplan, I would say STC would be my next choice. I take that back. Notman is excellent, but Notman uses the Kaplan Cubex, so you wouldn't be getting. They have supplementals, but I would put Notman in the STC Kaplan category.
And Joe, you can find my practice final on Dean's.
There you go, free, and that's got really good correlation. That's right there on the practice. I have 2 playlists for the 66 lectures, and then I have the practice tests. And Brian, I think, is at the front. I try and put him at the front unless there's some new, but he's there. You can see his logo on it. The thumbnail is Brian's Test Geek logo, so you can.
I've had thousands of people take it, but I still always want to hear feedback. How close was it?
Yeah, I tell people.
I got that. I still, that correlation to me is everything.
Listen, let me give you Brian. Brian doesn't get all the love he deserves. And so, like I say, I tell people to reach out to Brian. You can send him emails. He tutors. He's really cheap, $90 an hour. I think that's a screaming deal. But he also, like we just said, he loves getting feedback on his content. That's how we tweak it. Because I give him feedback too. Sometimes not always good, but most of the time very good. And, he makes tweaks and comes up with new questions. And so feel free to reach out to Brian for, questions about content, questions about his.
Please do. I've even been hated by some people because I like feedback as long as I've been doing it for over 25 years. And someone was hating on me because I use so much feedback. I couldn't understand that at all.
That is crazy.
That's why I'm not a big social media guy.
Well, yeah. I Joseph, I'm once a Marine, always a Marine. So
yeah.
People make fun of me because I like playing tit for tat. So, if somebody wants to engage with me on social media, it's on. So.
See what I must be old school because I say, here's my phone number. Please give me a call. I'd love to talk to you about it. Of course, you never hear from them. So
yeah, there we go, Nat. I was talking about this. I don't know if your firm is one of those past perfect customers who were I think it's called lock learning. There's a term for this, Brian, where you can't move on to unit 3 unless you pass unit 2, that kind of thing. And this is what I'm talking about. If you bomb the taxes, you use the Kaplan Q Bank. I don't think it's material to passing. Do you, Brian? Taxes on Series 7?
It's one of those that can be 3 or 7.
Yeah.
I have a free YouTube video, general overview on taxes for Series 7.
Yeah.
I've gotten good feedback on that too.
There you go. Training consultant. So I got to tell you a funny story, Trina. There was an acronym people were using for there is no alternative, and why people were investing in the stock market at the time. This is about 18 months ago. And then, as interest rates went up, there were alternatives. So I made a little short, Trina, and my name of my short was Tina is Dead. And what I meant by Tina is dead is there is no alternative is dead. And when that hit, everyone started, Tina,
no.
she's dead. No. But that's the original question. It's not my preferred. I couldn't see myself recommending training consultants as assuming Dean was agnostic. I'm not. I told you I think Kaplan was my favorite. But if I were agnostic about study, my recommendations would be either Knopman, Kaplan, STC. Is that it?
Yeah, mine too. Yep, you got it.
Okay.
And a supplement.
And a paid supplement from Test Geek Exam Prep LLC.
Exactly.
I took the SIE a couple weeks ago. There you go. And then one of my classes through Kaplan. Thank you so much, Ted. I appreciate the support at my Kaplan classes. I contract, or I should say Kaplan contracts with me, Guru Exam Prep LLC, to teach classes. And they call me, and if I'm available, I like doing it. Keeps me fresh, and I like doing it. So thanks for joining me. By the way, it came up. I do office hours. The office hours are free, and I also offer that to Kaplan students. And I don't know if you're in the live stream. Somebody asked about how to access that. You just literally go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, and you can put it in there. Now, it won't show that you're a paid student. You just have to put in notes, Kaplan student. This week is booked. I only allow 5 people for that. When it gets booked, I'll open up a new one. So I'll open up a new office hour next week some point. Firm provided STC and Kaplan, love them both. Purchase training consultant QBank. I didn't know TC sold the QBank. I didn't know they do that. Seems like an all-out frontal tech. I like that. I think, Brian, you were taking a 24. So I have no problem with that. The more practice questions, the better. So there you go. So you're in good shape. You can never, I don't think, have too many practice questions. So
again, for the 24,
yeah. DC, but there you go. Well, again, if people, our business is pretty easy, Brian. If people pass their exam using your content, they're happy. And if they don't, then they blame you. So I got to tell you, Brian, 24 is all over the place. There's people who love training consultants, hate Kaplan, love Kaplan, hate training consultants, love it.
There's always mix.
Hey, Pass Perfect. There's a high beta on 24 test prep vendors. I don't think there's anybody I've ever met who is apathetic about their 24 test prep vendor.
That's right.
Well, if you've done it more than once, Brian, yes. I mean, they lose their predictive skill or predictive diagnostic capabilities if you've done it more than once. But, try not to. But I think you're in good shape because you have all those practice questions, right? So I think you're in pretty good shape. But try to avoid. I know it's tough, but, the one time when those scores Brian and I are talking about don't work, like every once in a while I'll have a statistic anomaly. Somebody like today in social media said he got like an 85 and they got a 56 on the test. That's impossible. It's the only way that could possibly happen is somebody who just memorized questions and answers that had no conceptual understanding. And I would tell you on Brian, you need conceptual understanding. The 24 is primarily a judgment kind of a test. And so, try not to go B, B, C, D, D, A. This comes up, Brian, too, with different test prep vendors. So I can't tell you how many times somebody will think they found a conflict between SDC and Kaplan, and they think they're the same questions. And then when they read a little closer, they're not. Like, one is a sick kid at home, and it's a regular game. And the Kaplan version, it's the NBA championship. Those are different. Context is really important, is what I'm saying. Struggling with IAR, BD, and agent regulation on the Uniform Securities Act. A little confusing. So, Lindsay, I'll give Brian his screen there. He's basically
How far
saying,
can we go with this? Right?
he's saying, Lindsay saying,
I got this nailed to a
you
T.
need me. He's saying you need me. Lindsay,
need
Brian, in his supplements, he has what do you call that thing? The cheat sheet.
Definition of person's cheat sheet.
Yeah. So he goes through all that. What I do when I'm tutoring using Brian's content, Lindsay, I literally have you put your name in the agent box if you're taking 66 and the investment advisor rep box. And then I have you put your firm, and then we just go through that cheat sheet. So I'm with Brian. He I don't know if it's hubris. It's not bragging if it's true. And I think Brian does as good a job as anybody in putting that in plain English in a way that is very, very helpful.
It always has been one of the most difficult things for people to grasp in those textbooks. And not that you care, but it's difficult to teach as well.
Yeah.
So it actually was the origin of Test Geek, was writing supplements for the 63, 65, 66 on the definition of persons.
Yeah. Are you going to, Lindsay, which exam are you taking? I'm going to link I have a video that I'll link to. It is called Who's Your Daddy? And it's about who the investment. Do you belong to the SEC? Do you belong to, you might find that helpful. I also have a Mighty 90 on the Uniform Securities Act. And I'll put that there for you. I think that could be very helpful. But I basically tried to do is teach a class that I do in a half day in 90 minutes and put it on video. So that's there. But I highly recommend Brian's paid supplement. Is everything $100 or are the NASA?
Well, it depends. Class notes alone, the PDFs.
You can get the PDF, Lindsay, with just that cheat sheet for I think about $40 with the discount. If you just want
to get the whole video for $95.
That's what Brian always says. So, but you can also get it just even as practice tests, I think, for $20. So,
yeah,
those things work. Yeah. I'm not sure, Brian, what you mean on let me go back. I'm not sure what you're asking Brian and I to hit those things. We're more than happy to hit those things. I just don't know what those things are. Would love to see. So Lindsay, let me find Lindsay struggling. Oh, there you go. Okay, I got it. So Brian has his. Do you have anything for free on your YouTube channel or just your paid supplement?
For the registrations of persons, no. That's.
I'll tell you what I do. I'll do Lindsay. What I'll do, Lindsay, is I'll also put Brian's link to his actual teachable site where you can buy his stuff, invest in his stuff, as well as those videos I shared with you.
Or email me or whatever. I'm more than happy to help you with it.
Yeah. I think,
anyway.
don't tell anybody, but there might be a Brian scholarship available. There we go. Yeah, you need more. Yeah, that's for sure, right? The 7 is much different deal than the SIE. That's why I say you don't want to barely pass the SIE, and you don't want to walk around from the SIE thinking, "Oh, this was easy. 7's easy." That's a major, major mistake, right? So, give that 7 and 66 the respect that it deserves. I sometimes, Trina, use the analogy of slaying the dragon, and you slayed your SIE dragon, and then I always kind of give people a heads up. No, the 7 dragon is a different dragon. Before you go into the cave, don't be expecting the SIE dragon to blow some smoke at you. The same with the NASA exams, Trina. Those NASA exams are a different dragon as well, and as I said, some people really struggle on those NASA exams. I'm with you. Knowing the material, intellectual ownership, Ben, is where it's at. If you intellectually own the content, there's no way to trick you. So I'm a big believer in learning and understanding options, for example. Even though there are tricks, and I just warn people, if you go down the memory road and trick road, the number of things you got to memorize and learn tricks for is going to continue to compound. Where if you actually understand it, whether that's margin or options, margin doesn't pay enough dividends, but like options, and you say, man, give me 125. Analytical methods. I have a video called Analytical Methods, and I will post it in the replay for you at 5410. I would tell you, Brian has a great video, and I'll post that. He just did one on DCF.
Discounted cash flow and IRR.
Yeah. So I'll put that there as well for you. And then I would tell you, I don't know what Brian's thoughts are on this. I tell people, that same section of the exam also includes some of that balance sheet kind of stuff. So if you want to do arithmetic instead of, division and multiplication, maybe focus on that a little more than some of those others. But I'll post 2 things there. I'll post to my 66 analytical methods video, and I'll post Brian's discounted cash flow video as well. There you go. Oh my God, Alexis, I got to come up with some kind of a thing for people who've done that. My God, that's like hundreds of hours you spent with me. So Alexis, well, thank you so much for spending that many hours with me. When I started the YouTube channel, Alexis, I didn't have any intent for this, and I didn't even know about monetizing a YouTube channel. I basically, when COVID hit, said, man, I don't have a direct connection with any test takers, and I don't know if there's ever going to be live classes again or what's going to happen. I started the YouTube channel with that kind of as my goal. And all I really knew how to do was hit, play and record, so I basically made long form videos. And when I first did that, people were saying, nobody's going to watch an hour-long video or a 2-hour-long video, or, your video should be 5, 10, 15 minutes. What do I know? Right. But then when I monetized, Google loves it, Alexis, because it keeps somebody like you on the channel a lot longer, because you can binge on my channel. You could go down a rabbit hole. But what I was going to say, I had a guy the other day, Alexis, who said he says, how can you call it free when there's commercials? This was a Series 9, by the way. I said, man, I'm glad I'm not a baby broker working for you. I said, listen, you can pay $20 a month. I hate commercials too. And for $20, you don't have to watch the ads. They'll disappear. And, that's what I would suggest. And assuming you're going to join me for all your exams at $20 a month, maybe 6 months, it's $120. And then he goes, well, I guess I'll suffer. I said, well, gee, if suffering is having to watch ads on YouTube, you are pretty blessed. There are a lot of people in life who watching advertisements on YouTube is not suffering. Self-study, Cynthia, you've been participating. I love it. You're plugged in. You're participating in everything we have available. And so we will definitely make extra effort to make sure you make your marks for sure. You're, more active in our community than, we care for everybody, every test taker we care about. But those, that we get close to, I, as a joke, it's not really a joke, it's a true story, Cynthia, but I just finished teaching a Schwab class in Scottsdale, and I was walking back to my hotel, and this guy pulled over who was in my class, and he offered me a ride. And he said, I said, are you going to pass your exam? He goes, well, does it matter? I go, yes, it does, because I'm not going to bond with somebody who doesn't pass their exam. That's going to be bad form. So you have to assure me that you're going to pass your exam, and in that case, I will accept the ride. So.
Cynthia, again, that YouTube video I have free on taxes for Series 7 does correlate with securities, different investments. I think you might find helpful. It's kind of a general overlook, but I think it's very helpful.
I'll link to that. I'll link to that as well. So it's harder. I'm getting better at finding Brian's stuff to link to. Let's see. I trained the call center. I love call centers, Teresa. You learn so much because I had a guy who was not happy because he was on the IRA phone desk for 2 weeks. I said, no, you got to embrace it. In the end of 2 weeks, you're going to be an expert because you're going to be talking to confused customers for 2 weeks in a row. Most brokers don't get the chance to do that. So, except stop studying because RMD season almost killed me. There you go. So a reset. I think you made a good choice. You can't be too distracted when you're trying to get this done. So I think that's a good choice. There you go. Thursday, 82, Nathan. You're in good shape. You're in good shape. Good shape.
That's a good score. Yeah.
Good shape. Teresa, good shape. Those are the kind of scores that are indications of success. And more importantly, indications you're not at risk. Marcel, welcome back, my friend. I love it. Good to see you. Good to see you. You could have, Brian and I went next door to where you and I met for dinner and did some damage. You would have been a good third party for us. You could have helped us with our festivities for sure.
Did you go to SC Prime?
Yeah, we did. I think that's right.
They're moving downstairs, right?
I didn't know that. I didn't know. Audra, somebody wants to know what test you're taking. Parity of the warrant of the stock. Well, parity would be when there's no time value in the warrant. It would be my answer to that. But parity means equal, right? So when you hear the word parity, you think equal. That's what that word means. So, yeah, I think that was pretty simple. That's a lot simpler than I do it for sure. Wishing you luck, Oren. Wishing you luck. Needed that last month. There you go. Looks like we got coming up on our drawing. Wow, David, my goodness. Welcome from LinkedIn. Nearly 20, 45 days. Oof. Oh man, through dance and waiting for a response. I have heard of successful challenges, usually not for 2 questions, usually for 1, but it's far and few between. You got to know your question and your answer. What do you think, Brian? Have you heard of people doing it?
No.
I have. Buy-ins and
heard that-
sellouts, Brian. I will link that video. It's a great Brian Lee has a great video on that. Okay, it's time for our drawing. It looks like 84. You should be pretty good, Bo. Boom, easier said than done. Some of you will be joining us for the live stream overtime session. I think there's a couple spots left if you want to reconvene in a Zoom classroom in 15 minutes. It's deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. Oh, look at that. Las Vegas Knights is our hockey team. Brian is
I'm tired of hearing about the NBA. I want to hear some hockey.
He's a hockey fan. He's a hockey fan. All right, so I think we're ready. So, okay, don't do it yet because I've got to put it in there. It's got to be exactly how you see it. And my thing here, let me get rid of Brian and I. And let me get rid of this. And let me put, boom, share screen. Let's get rid of Brian's email address.
No, you can leave it up there.
We want to get a clean. There we go.
There
Okay, so put Knights into the chat. Knights into the chat as you see it on the screen. And then when we get the entries in, we'll hit the draw button. And what the drawing is for is a 30-minute coaching call. We can talk about whatever you want in the coaching call. Some people like to do, last week we did the covered call. Week before that, somebody wanted to do some practice question on a shared screen. We had somebody who wanted to do customer accounts. So basically whatever you want to do for your exam, you have a coaching call with 30 minutes to do that. And then again, you got to claim your winnings. Let me put that on there for you. Within 1 hour of the completion of our live stream, you got to send me an email telling me you're the winner. All right. So anybody else? All entries are in. Already on the left. Already on the right. Let the drawing begin.
Yay.
Bo Dorman, you are the winner, Bo. So send me an email to deantheseries7guru@gmail.com, and I will acknowledge you. And then at some point tomorrow, I will send you the link for that call. I think this week we had somebody who's testing. I don't want to have a contingent liability, so it's not a floating call that you can put anywhere you want. But if, for example, it's scheduled for Tuesday and you're testing Friday, I try and work with you on that. But I don't like floating. Some guy who didn't make his coaching call like a year ago said, "Hey, I want a coaching call a year ago, and I didn't have time to do it. Is it still available?" I go, "No, it expires. It expires in that first week." All right, so let's see. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back to Brian and I. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so remember, inch by inch, your Series 7 is a cinch, yard by yard. Your Series 7 or any other exam you're taking is hard. Brian?
Just like we said earlier today, have confidence. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. See you next Tuesday.